Too much hit with the hands. The hands are dead. Hands are dead.
Hands are dead.
It's the sternum that swings it. Lock it. Feel like that's against your right wrist, right? So that, your right hand, feel like your right wrist is coming back that way.
Like that?
Yeah. That was your best one.
Hi there, and welcome to Golf Channel Academy. Our goal today is to improve your short game. I'm Todd Lewis, proud to be with Paul McGinley, a multiple winner all across the world, but of course he's known for his performance at the Ryder Cup. 3 times as a player, 2 times as an assistant captain, of course the captain for the European team that won at Glen Eagles just last fall. He's 6-0. You've never lost at the Ryder Cup, Paul, but I want to go back to the fall. After winning at Glen Eagles, what has your life been like?
It's been busy. It's been actually good, to be honest. In the belief in chipping. I know some guys chip with a lot of wrists in their swing, and I mean that's great, but for me, when you do break the wrist so quickly, you've got to really recreate exactly the same wrist break in the downswing in order to get a loft on the club to hit the ball. So my view is that I'm a little bit of the Steve Stricker mold, who doesn't use a lot of wrists, and I believe that's the easiest and simplest way to chip. So what I like to do, there's 2 big fundamentals when it comes to chipping for me. And the first one is to feel like, although this isn't going to happen, to feel like that shaft is going up my right forearm. A lot of people think it's the left, but for me the left goes this way and you leave the club behind and you don't get the bounce used properly. For me, it's about the right forearm, feeling that the right forearm is locked into the top of the grip. And the weight must be on the left side. You must have an angle this way. Body's got to be shaped a little bit this way, so you're slightly ahead of the ball, weight mostly dominantly on the left-hand side. From there, to feel like the grip is close to my right forearm. Now, once I've done the setup, from there, the loft remains the same. How I hit the shot is based on my body turn. If I want to hit it a long way, my body turns a bit quicker. If I've got a short shot, like here, the body just doesn't move so quick.
So you're thinking the center of your chest is what's moving, correct?
The sternum of my chest is I've pretty much locked the hands and locked the wrists, and from there it's just a small rotation. That one wasn't good.
But that's okay. That happens everywhere. What caused you to hit that improper shot?
I wasn't concentrating, to be honest.
So I distracted you.
Good. I'm Irish. I can't do 2 things at once. When I'm talking and trying to hit, it's not very good.
Well, let's stop right here and look at the shot that you have to this pin here. This is what a lot of people would call being short-sighted, just off the green. Walk us through your approach on what club to use and how you play this shorter shot from off the green.
Well, for me, it's a 54 degree like I've got here. And I'm sure everybody knows about this. Pitching the ball on the fringe of the green, unless you've got no other option, is always a bit dodgy. You want to pitch it on the green because that's consistent. This is manicured properly, nice height of grass, and that's where you want to be able to pitch it. So I'm looking for a club that's going to pitch the ball here and then run the rest of the way. I'm not a great spinner of the ball. I like to see it running.
And for you, what is that club?
For me, that's a 54 degree.
Okay.
Yeah, I carry a 60 degree as well too, and a 54, and then right down wedges all the way down. Sometimes I chip. If we're playing, particularly in British Open type golf courses, I chip with 6-iron quite regularly, actually, to be honest. And also a putter off the green. If you can get the putter on it at all. I mean, to be quite honest, this shot here, with the fringe cut as tight as it is, I'd be very, I would seriously consider using a putter if this was a shot in a tournament. My view would be, for a handicap golfer, 100% get the putter out any opportunity you can. You're trying to turn 3 shots into 2. And the best option is the putter. The old saying in golf, your worst putt's always going to be better than your worst chip.
All right, let's see you hit another.
So again, getting that body angle is very important, and it must remain that way throughout the whole stroke. Feel like the right forearm, the club is going right up into the right forearm, and from there it's a slight body rotation.
What is your focus through impact as far as your eye and head position?
My focus is on the speed of my body turn. That's what I'm trying to focus on. So I know this is a very quick chip, and I know it's just a little small rotation with the body.
What about hand position? Is it in front of the ball, neutral, or behind the ball?
Has to be slightly ahead.
Slightly behind.
Must be slightly ahead, but only slightly ahead. And then from there, it's a rotation around.
Good stuff from Paul McGinley as we continue here on Golf Channel Academy. Stay with us. We've seen the short.
You need to understand that you are going to have to play great golf to win that match.
We welcome you back to Golf Channel Academy at Tranquilo Golf Club at the Four Seasons Resort in Orlando, Florida. Todd Lewis with Paul McGinley working on your short game. And Paul, now we have a longer chip here. This is about 17 yards, roughly 50 feet. Walk us through the approach to this shot.
Well, the first approach is coming down off the left, Todd. We got a little bit of grain left to right as well, too. So this is pretty quick chip shot. So the first thing I do, I'd like to think, is look for a consistent area in the green that I want to pitch the ball on. The fringe here is not very consistent. The greens are very consistent. So I'm looking in a general area of here to chip the ball.
Okay, I'm going to put a tee down here. This is kind of the area.
This is just a general area, yeah. Okay. I want to get this ball on the ground as quick as possible. Lift it over this area which is not so consistent, get it onto the consistent area, and then run out the rest of the way. So my experience, having practiced shot a lot of times around different shots around the greens, my experience tells me that the club to get the ball lifted to the tee is an 8-iron that will then run the rest of the way. So I've chosen an 8-iron here. Very important for the technique. Ball's middle of the stance, but my angle is slightly ahead here. And again, I like to feel like that grip is right up against my right forearm. And from there, it's a body rotation through. That's where my speed is being created. It's not being created through my wrists. It's being created through my body turn.
It looks like you have a triangular motion with that torso turn, much like you would have in putting. Would you have a putting grip, or do you use the same grip you would use with a 3-wood?
I use my grip that I would use on a 3-wood. And you're right, it is a triangle, but it's a modified version of the triangle. Okay. Because your body angle must be set slightly ahead, because you want a slightly descending blow on the ball. You don't want to get, I see a lot of amateurs make the mistake trying to scoop the ball in the air. It's the worst thing you can do in chipping. You can't get underneath it in chipping. It must be coming this way and left through the ball. Slightly descending blow. So yes, you're right, you do have a triangle, but in putting it's kind of here. In chipping it must be there. You must be slightly ahead of the ball. You must have that slight descending blow.
So the weight distribution for putting, you're pretty balanced over both feet, whereas what's the percentage you want to be on your left side?
I'm thinking 70-30, Todd, on my left side. I think it's very, very important in chipping to be just a little bit ahead of the ball, and you're actually almost looking back on the ball. Almost looking back on it to have that slight descending blow. But the big key for me is not to have too much wrist in it. I know some guys chip with wrists and it works well for them. For me, there's too many inconsistencies. If you're bending your wrists, that's going to create, you're going to have to do the same recreation of breaking the way back to get the club back consistently in the same place. So it breeds a little bit of inconsistency as far as I'm concerned. I like to keep the loft the same all the way through the shot. And it's my body rotation that takes it there. There are certain shots in the short game where you do have to create wrists. You know, when I want to get the ball popped up really quickly, yes, you have to do it with wrists. But when I want to get it on the ground, I want to take the wrists out of it and do it with the body turn.
All right, Paul, give us one more shot here to visualize what exactly we need to do.
So quite simply, Todd, I've identified where you've put down the tee is where I want to chip the ball to and let the ground do the rest of the work. Big break off the left here. And from my experience of chipping, I know that an 8-iron is a club that's going to take me from there to the tee, and then it's going to roll from there. So when it comes down to technique, slightly on the left-hand side, 70-30 in terms of weight, eye line slightly ahead of the ball. And the big thing for me is to feel that the grip is going up that right forearm. And from there, it's pretty much locked. And now it's my body rotation that's going to create the speed to get it to there. Not my wrists. My wrists are not going to create the speed. It's going to be my body rotation. So pretty much locked. And now body rotation to the tee. And let the green speed do the rest of the work.
Beautiful stuff, as expected from Paul McGinley. We're going to now take Paul away from this tightly mowned area, put him in the rough, put him in a bunker, hopefully to help your short game.
Yes, and live.
Paul McGinley, just simply download the Golf Channel Academy app or go to golfchannel.com/instruction. We've taken Paul away from the tight lies. We put him in the hairy lies here. Different lies I mentioned, but is it a different approach with these shots, Paul?
Not really. The golf club changes. Obviously, I go into a 60 degree as opposed to an 8-iron and a 54. But the simplicity of trying to keep the face angle the same principle applies. Very little risks. I like to feel like the grip is up against my right forearm, even though it's not quite. I like to have that feeling, and then it's about body rotation. But there's one important principle as well too, Todd, that's very, very, very important when it comes around the greens, and a hairy lie, and a lie that's got what we call a bird's nest, grass all around it and sitting in the middle. And the general principle is, the worse the lie, the more loft you apply.
Why is that?
It's got a good rhyme, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
The worse the lie, the more loft you apply. Because when the lie is bad, the last thing you want is that ball coming out hot. And the way to minimize the ball coming out hot is to hit it with loft. So one general principle is to put that loft on when you've got grass around it and you're in that what we call a bird's nest lie. Again, very similar to an 8-iron, the weight's slightly ahead, maybe kind of 60-40 rather than 70-30, because the ball still has to go up. But what's very important is you don't change your body. Your body angle remains here throughout the shot. A lot of people trying to hit the ball higher, they take the club back and then they think, oh, I need to get this in the air, and then they reroute it, get the club coming in from behind, get underneath it, and then they hit too far behind it and they duff it.
Because it's buried a bit, or kind of got a bird's nest, as you mentioned, around it, I often, I'm sure a lot of amateurs do, try to hit it harder because they feel like they have to, because they've got a lot of grass around it to get it out and on the green. Is that accurate?
You're half right.
Half right.
You're half right. Yes, you do hit it harder, but you hit it harder by having a lot more loft on the club face. Okay, so one of the questions I'm asked about, we hear about big hitting and speed and how important it is in the long game, but believe me, speed is very important in the short game as well too. Very important. And if you can create that speed, that dynamic speed through your torso, but with loft on, you can pop it right up your nose.
Wow.
And that's what Phil Mickelson does. Incredible speed through the ball, even with a little chip shot. But because he's got so much loft on, the ball's going up, not forward.
Let's see some shots here.
So the grip is up against the right forearm. 60-40. Now this body angle must remain the same. And from there, I'm feeling again like there's not too much wrist, but because my swing is longer, the club will naturally hinge. It's not a forced hinge, it's a natural hinge. So don't worry about a little bit more wrist coming into it. It has to happen because my swing is longer. But I'm still feeling like this and this are connected. And from there, ball comes up with loft, and it lands softly. You've got to get the ball landing softly. Coming out of this hairy lie, it's got to be dead when it hits the deck. If it comes out with any fire on it, you've lost control. Another mistake people make, Todd, which is very important, putting loft on a club is not just taking the club and turning it to the right. That's not turning loft on. Turning loft on is setting it, turning the grip, turning the whole club, and then gripping it. So you're actually not gripping the club and the top of the grip. You're turning it, then you're re-gripping it, because if you just open it up like this, your hands will re-rotate back at impact. So get that loft, turn that club at address, then grip it. Weight, probably 60-40, not so much 70-30 like an 8-iron, probably 60-40. And for me, I like to feel like the grip, as I say, although it doesn't do it, I like to feel that the grip is going up the right forearm. The dynamic loft then remains the same throughout the whole swing, and it's the speed of my rotation that dictates how far the ball is going to go and at what height.
How about a couple of things here? Grip pressure, hand position, and using the bounce on a lofted club like this.
Well, grip pressure is just normal. I would just take a normal grip pressure that I would use in all my other shots. Ball position, kind of a little bit towards the forward, but my weight being left kind of helps me get a little bit down on it. Hitting the ball up is not necessarily hitting it this way. You've got to be hitting slightly still down on it.
Are your hands ahead of the ball or
My
neutral
hands
or
are
behind
just level or slightly ahead.
Okay.
But it's the speed of my rotation. Once I've created everything at address, then it's the speed of my rotation that lifts the ball up in the air.
And the bounce of the club. And we were talking during the break about how much an amateur doesn't really understand the bounce and how much it could benefit them.
Applying the bounce. If this is the bounce at address, the idea is to recreate that bounce again at impact. And if you have your hands forward, you're decreasing the bounce. So that's why the rotational swing is so important for me when it comes to chipping. I'm not leaning forward on it, I'm rotating around my body, and the club is coming back to a very consistent position time after time after time.
Let's see another shot.
Weight on the left side slightly, feel like the grip is against my right forearm, and it's a body rotation.
Yep. So you were telling me a story also, and this is quite entertaining. The leading edge and the bounce. A friend says he has a great parable for that, right?
A friend of mine has a great answer to this. Yeah, great way of putting it and explaining it. And when he explained it, it made a lot of sense. The bounce, i.e. the bounce is where the back edge is higher than the front edge. And this is the bounce. So his terminology was, the back edge is God, and the front edge is the devil.
Well, heaven help us.
You got to chip with God.
Amen to that. Well, you're definitely helping us. And now we're going to leave the turf and head to the sand.
Feeling how deep it is, I can sense this is quite a firm bunker, having never walked in it before. And as I take my stance, I'm just digging in again, and again I can feel underneath my feet there's a good base underneath that, which is a nice bit of firmness. So now I know that this sand is got a little bit of firmness to him, which is a great thing in a bunker. Now this is where the bounce comes into its own. Applying the bounce and using the bounce is so important here. This is my bounce. I'm going to open the face a little bit more, which is going to create about 8 or 9 degrees bounce. Lots of loft. Loft is your friend in the bunker. Aiming a little bit left. Club face is at the target. I'm aiming a little bit left, and I'm also feeling with my feet, with my eyes closed almost, as to how firm this sand is. Weight slightly on the left-hand side. Now what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to hit a little bit behind the ball here. A little bit behind the ball here, a couple of inches behind it. But because this is what enters the sand first, this is the secret of bunker play. The bounce enters the sand first, not the leading edge.
All right, let's see a shot here. Give us, I guess, an exact number on how far behind the ball you want to hit. You said 1 to 2 inches. Does it vary? 8?
It can vary, and this is why, by using the bounce, Todd, and applying the bounce correctly, whether it's 2 inches, whether it's 3 inches, whether it's 3.5 inches, if you apply the bounce correctly, it's going to be a similar result. That's why the bounce is so important. Applying the bounce is very important. You must not hit it with the leading edge. Going down on it this way is taking the bounce off. Is taking the bounce off, and you're hitting it with the leading edge. You don't want to hit it with the leading edge. This is what enters the sand first. The bounce enters the sand first, and the club then aquaplanes through the sand, and the ball will come out with lovely height.
You said a lot of your weight, not a lot of it actually, but a slight majority is on your left side, right?
60-40.
60-40, much like you were when you were in the rough, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And are you're not really turning as much, or are you? Or is it more hand? Is it more hand and wrist?
There's a little bit more wrist in it. Yeah, this is not where in chipping where I like to feel this is against this. It's a little bit more. There's a little bit more wrist break involved in the bunker, and hitting the sand hard is important, and creating speed like we spoke about out of that gnarly lie around the greens. Creating a bit of speed is very, very, very important coming out of a bunker. As long as you have the loft on and as long as you're applying the bounce, you can really hit it hard and that ball will pop up rather than forward.
Okay, let's see another.
Club face is aiming. My body's at the pin. My body is slightly left. I've opened the face to create the bounce, and from there, bit of speed.
Quickly, what are your legs doing through this shot?
Very little movement in my legs. It's creating a base for me, that's about all. There's not much going on in the legs.
One more, full bunker shot here.
Stance, club face open, entering a couple inches behind, but with the bounce.
Paul McGinley, appreciate your time. I know you've helped a lot of people at home. We want to thank Tranquilo Golf Club here at the Four Seasons Resort in Orlando, Florida. Paul, I'm Todd Lewis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.